Hi, I'm Belinda, the creator of Thrive Rally, a place of support, community for the dreamers and doers. Here, you'll be inspired to grow into the best version of you. So let's thrive together. Hi everyone, Belinda here from Thrive Rally. I am here with success and business mindset coach, Kim Argetsinger. I'm so excited to have you here today, Kim. So thank you so much for joining me today.
So excited to be here.
So Kim is, again, a success and business mindset coach. Her mission is to help others see what's a possibility for them and help them get there. She helps with her services through private one-to-one coaching, group coaching, and courses that she has available on her site for the high-achieving, ambitious solopreneur and coaches. So again, Kim, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Kim is going to walk us through her journey as a coach and how she basically got here today. So I'm excited to jump in. And Kim, if people don't know you, because we discovered each other through a Facebook group, tell me a little bit about yourself and what led you to where you are today.
Sure. First, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here, and thank you for the nice intro. I am, as Belinda said, I'm a success and mindset business coach, and I work with high-achieving solopreneurs, creatives, and coaches. And I'm a big believer that we all have our own version of success. So what success looks like for me might be very different than what success looks like for you. So my work, a lot of it centers around helping people identify what that success is for them and getting clear on that and getting rid of the shoulds. And then from there, I believe in mindset and action and strategy. So blending the mindset pieces, I believe that's the foundation for everything we do. Blending that work with the action and strategy we need, because otherwise we're just in our head and daydreaming if we're just in the mindset piece. So my work is really a blend of both. And it's really the work I use for myself on a daily basis as well. So that's the work I do, and I love it. And did you ask me how was the other question? So I don't remember.
So, not today. Basically the next thing is you have a very interesting story and how you got into coaching. So I'm just interested to know a bit about your background, what made you want to become a coach, and basically what led you to having this business you have today.
Yeah. So I think my way of getting here, here's one crazy thing, was kind of a backwards roundabout way. I definitely didn't get out of college knowing I was going to be a coach. I didn't even know this was an industry. I did study psychology in school and have always been fascinated with how the mind works, how the brain works, why we do what we do, what makes people tick. But I also very much have a creative side to me and have always been passionate about acting and performing. So when I finished college, like I said, I believe in our own version of success, and my version of success at that time was acting. I wanted to be an actress, so I had gone to school in Miami and packed up my bags, got a one-way ticket, moved to LA, and pursued acting for 10 years. So I had a career as an actress for a decade until I hit a time in my career acting where it really wasn't my version of success anymore. I was quite honestly really unfulfilled. I was unhappy. I was starting to hit a place where I wasn't jaded, but I could see that coming around the corner, and I saw that in others, and it was something I didn't want, and I knew it was time for a change. And around that time, for anyone who hasn't been to LA or doesn't know LA, it's a very wonderful city. Such a wonderful experience, but it's a very myopic city in that it centers all around acting. And I knew if I wanted to make a change, it would be really hard for me personally to see the forest from the trees, being in a world where everything is so centered around this one industry that I still had a tie to. So I did what a rational human does. I picked up my bags and I bought a one-way ticket to New York City. And I moved to New York City because I always wanted to live there. And that was something, talking about versions of success, that was something I had always wanted for myself, and decided I was going to move there and figure it out and use the pressure of having to make it in that city to help me figure out what was next. And when I moved there, in full transparency, I had no idea what the F I was doing. I just knew I wanted to start over. And I spent a lot of time trying on different hats and taking jobs that I'm grateful for, but that were horrible fits for me. And so I'm grateful for that because they taught me a lot. And through that, had a conversation with a coach. And it was one of those conversations. I remember it distinctly. It was New Year's Eve, and it was a coach who's pretty well known in the industry. And we just happened to be at a party together, and she asked me a few questions, and it was as if a light bulb went off and everything in my life just was like shifted. I was like, what the heck is this? What is this woman doing? Like, how is this making my mind think differently? And clearly I'm a little bit of once you have an idea in your head, I have to take action. A few weeks later, I researched coaching, got into a coaching program, and became utterly obsessed with the process. And if you're in a coaching training program, part of it, and if you're a coach, you usually have your own coach. And so just the work itself, just besides loving the work and finding something I'm passionate about, it really helped me personally to transform, I think, my life inside and outside. And I mean, I'm a completely different person than I was 6 years ago, and my life in every way has transformed. So that's how I got here. And that's probably why I'm just so obsessed with this work and believe in it so much.
Interesting. So acting and now coaching. Now you said you started researching and obsessing. So it wasn't something that was like an idea that you've had in your head for years and were like lingering. You kind of just like dove right in. And I guess you weren't really concerned with like what others, like family and friends, may have thought. Was that something that helped, like, kind of maybe hindered you? Or, because I know that some people get scared of like, what is my family going to think? Actress and now a coach and now starting my own and I'm moving to New York, and what am I doing? So did any of that come up for you from like listening to your friends and family?
Yeah, in some ways. So I'm lucky. I have really amazing supportive parents, and I clearly from the start have never had a traditional path. So I guess in some ways that's probably stuff I had to work through a lot when I was still acting. There's a lot of parallels to, as an actress, you basically do have your own business. You're an entrepreneur essentially, or you're a freelancer. And so I guess a lot of that I went through with acting. And again, I'm very lucky. My dad's a race car driver, professional race car driver. So I have a dad who has always said, find your passion, pursue it, and turn it into a career. That's been my model. So I've been really lucky there. But extended family and friends, heck yes. I mean, in LA, my whole world was acting and everyone around me. So I didn't have to worry there. But going home for the holidays, as an actress, you're always getting what have you been in last? What are you doing? And there's always the people who are, kind of wondering when you're going to maybe grow up and get a real job. So I definitely, for me, what part of that block is I always had it in my head that I had to get a real job. And I spent the first year in New York proving to myself that I could get a real job and doing exactly that, because that to me, that was something I think I felt I needed to prove. When I started my business, did I worry about what people would think? Heck yes. I think life coaching, now I say I'm a mindset business coach, but I started as a general life coach, and that's what I studied. I think it's starting to become more understood and mainstream, but at the time it was a bit of you're going to do what? You're going to be I mean, it just had, I think the term life coach has some connotation. So I definitely just got some flack from well-meaning, people who they're concerned about you, or they want to make sure you're going to be okay. And I think
normal,
I guess it's normal. I think a lot of people know me, and I'm just someone who's going to just go for something and do something and probably not take the normal path. But I definitely, and then I just had a lot of concerns. I didn't share publicly or post anything on social media for a full year. And that was my own internal. This is why I believe in the internal work so much, because that was my own internal mindset and fears about what people who I knew from high school, or what someone from college, or someone, what they were going to think about what I was doing. And so I definitely had those things come up. And I think they also play a part with the work I do and why I believe so much in getting that mindset piece in check. Because for a year, I was basically holding myself back, because that's one avenue in which I market my business.
Right. All right. So you kind of like hid yourself from this passion that you were diving into, and starting out as anyone who's starting like a new venture. What were some of the struggles that you went through maybe trying to find clients, maybe putting your stuff out there, which I guess you're a little bit more familiar with, especially coming from the acting world. Like, what struggles did you face when you first started out your business? Was it, what do I do? How do I start a business? Or maybe getting clients? Like, can you share with us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm an open book, so you can ask anything. And if you, as I'm talking, if there's anything you want to clarify, have me clarify, feel free. When I started my business, so for anyone watching who is starting a business, know that when I started, I have a business now. I live in New York City. I'm not homeless. It works. But when I started out, I had no idea what the F I was doing. I was terrified. I was simultaneously excited and terrified. So it's like, I'm going to do this. And I quit my job. And then I thought, what the heck am I doing? Like, I know how to coach, but I don't know any of the real business stuff. I have tenacity, I have grit, but I don't even know where to apply that tenacity or grit outside of let me write a blog, which I think was the extent of my business strategy when I first started. So I think one of the biggest struggles when I started was I had all this passion, I had all this excitement, I had the willingness, I had the grit, I had the tacitness, whatever, all those things, but and I was good at what I did, but I didn't have any structure in place. I didn't know any of the marketing tools. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. So that was a big, which led to me diving in to a really in-depth study on all of that, which is, I think, again, why, I mean, I didn't think I was going to be a business coach. I think that's why I'm so obsessed with the strategy and tool piece to it, because it all works. And I've seen it myself. And I also remember what it was like when I was just flinging crap at the wall, crossing my fingers. So I think that was a big struggle. I think the getting clients part, I think for all of us, you get your first client, and this reminds me of acting so much. First, you don't know if you're ever going to book a client. It's like acting. You never know if you're going to actually book an acting role, and then you do, and you never know if you're going to get another acting role. You never know if you're going to get another acting client. And I think really the beginning, when I was just starting out, feeling like, oh my gosh, is there going to ever be another one? And then from an internal standpoint, all of the, am I enough? Am I good enough? Can I actually do this? Am I worth what I'm charging? I think as entrepreneurs, as solopreneurs, having to price ourselves, it's really different than someone giving you a salary and telling you, negotiating that. You have to decide for yourself, and then you have to ask for it. So I think so many hurdles that way through business that have forced me to do the work on myself and up-level my mind over and over again with every new step. Those are just a few, but for anyone watching, I mean, so many. I think it's an exciting journey, but it is not without challenges. I think there's nothing like entrepreneurialism to test you and to cause you to grow as a person.
Right. So you did that internal work on yourself. I'm interested, now that you've had that experience being a coach for the years that you've had. Now, I know you've coached so many women who are wanting to start out or wanting to have their own coaching business or start their own business. What have you seen is like what most people struggle with? Is it basically what you just explained? I guess seeing, am I worth it, or who am I to be doing this? I'm wondering, like, what has been like the most common theme that you see when females are trying to start out and branch out and become who they truly want to become?
It's a great question. So, and I work with men as well, and I'll share that I think while there are sometimes generically differences between men and women, I mean, there's physical differences as well, obviously, but I think just for everyone watching, again, it's interesting that some, I think, of the struggles are universal, and I think they're universally human. And I'm really big on humanizing the things we go through and realizing that so much of this is normal, and it doesn't mean that anyone's broken or there's something wrong with anyone. It's just the way our brains are wired and normal things that we come up against. And I find for almost all of us, there is that self-worth piece. There is the, am I good enough? Can I do this? Am I worth it? That self-worth piece. And that's very normal. I think for a fair amount of people too, they actually have a good handle on some of the strategy, but then again, it's some of those beliefs of being good enough or can I do this that stop them from actually taking action, and that getting that piece to connect, I think that bridge so that you believe in yourself enough to actually take action. That's usually a lot of the work I do and struggle. I think another thing that I see, because I also work with some entrepreneurs who are established and they have businesses. And so essentially they've made it. And I think it's a good reminder for all of us. It doesn't mean that all of this just goes away. It's an ongoing internal work. And I see sometimes then there are some blocks that come up around, there's a different level of pressure when you have an audience and when you have a list and when you're delivering something. And then that authenticity to show up and to be different or to really show your true voice, I find that to be a struggle a lot of people go through, because it's one thing to show up consistently and to share our voice and our content. It's a whole nother thing to continue to peel off the layers and show up publicly, or show up if you're on stage speaking, or show up on video and to really share some of the truth that's going on with you or going on in your business. And I find that's a pretty universal continuing to be okay with that and to stand out and differentiate in a way that might not be popular. You don't know how that's going to land.
Mm-hmm.
I think what other common, another one that I see, and this is one that I personally I have my own coach, I have to work on this all the time, but is perfectionism. I see perfectionism, and also expectations. Those are two things that I see come up for all of us a lot. And the perfectionism is sneaky. I find for some people, they're very aware of perfect. They know the whole done is better than perfect saying that we see, but it starts to sneak in really funny ways and sabotage some people that I work with. And expectations are, it's great for us to have big goals. It's great for us to have grand visions, but sometimes when we attach too much expectation to it, that can do a whole lot of damage and cause us some turmoil. So I'm sure I could rattle off 20 more, but I think those are some of the pretty universal ones. I don't know if any of those resonate with you or give you any thoughts.
The perfectionism definitely is something that has held me back for such a long time in starting Thrive Rally and thinking, yes, but like I have this idea, but like how do I even begin, or where I even start, but do I have everything, and does this make sense, and I need to have all the answers before I can even start. So and that was like maybe like a year or two of me thinking that. So I definitely resonate with that, because that's something definitely I experienced, and I know that so many others that I know that like want to start something, like they hold themselves back because of that, or just also the not being enough, or like who am I, because I know I've dealt with that as well, like who the hell am I to want to start this, or I want to try and help people, like what do I have to offer? So definitely now, is like the main goal is really just for them to just like face their fear and just put themselves out there? And I guess what I'm trying to ask is, with those struggles and like normally with the way people, like those little limiting thoughts that people have, do you basically just tell them like, why don't you try it and then come back to me and let me know like how do you feel about that? Is that normally something that you like help your clients I guess do? Or I know there's much more strategy involved with it, but like what, I guess, actionable steps do you normally give your clients to like overcome those limiting beliefs?
So I guess depends on the client, and obviously we're working in a one-on-one container, but I like to work with clients. I mean, I like to go deep often. So sometimes I like to tech into where is this coming from? What is this really about? Because oftentimes, and to really create some awareness around it, because oftentimes we aren't even aware that that's what's happening. We're not even aware that I'll share for me, for example, perfectionism. That's something I thought I had that taken care of. I was like, and then I found with my coach, it was sneaking in, and I wasn't even aware of some of the funny ways it was sneaking in. It had just like snuck in there with a little mask and was showing up in other ways and holding me back. So I like to spend some time digging and getting some awareness first that that's even what's happening, whether it's perfectionism or expectations or there's fear or these limiting beliefs, and create some awareness around it. Sometimes create some awareness just around what it's really about and where it's coming from, because it's hard to shift anything if we're not aware of it, and it's hard to deal anything if we're not aware of it. And when we're aware of it, we can start to just notice, just the way you do in meditation and you notice things, you can just start to notice it. And the way in meditation you can sometimes see your thoughts. Anyone meditates, you don't try to change your thoughts. You don't necessarily try to fix them. You just see your thoughts go by and note them. I think similarly, when we start to become aware of some of these, I don't even want to call them limiting beliefs. They're just beliefs that don't serve us as well. They're, they're normal. They're part of the human experience. And we start to notice them. We can start to just watch them go by. So I like to spend a lot of time in the awareness and also just connecting some of the dots. And sometimes we'll do some work through, depending on what it is, going through some tools, just addressing that specific, I don't want to call it an issue because it's not an issue, but that specific topic. Right. And sometimes it is work around learning how to live within whatever that particular thought or emotion is. And then shift your focus as you would in meditation to what are those goals? What are those values? What are those things you want to be doing? And how are you going to take action anyway? Because I do find, and I don't know if you find this with yourself, I do find there are certain fears that we can work on, but they're not necessarily going away. I mean, our brain is wired to be fearful. Our brain is wired to throw this stuff at us. We've been wired from hunter-gatherer days to be this way as a way to evolve. So certain things, they're going to continue to come up. And I find the more we can just accept, like, this is just a part of my brain doing its brain thing. Like, thank you, brain. Let me focus on what I want. Sometimes that can be more effective than trying to argue with it and have it pull us down, because our brain always wins. So it's hard to explain the coaching process, but I don't know if that makes sense as just some of the ways I personally like to work through some of these thoughts. And it really is all then about normalizing. I really like to normalize the human experience. We're human. There's nothing wrong with anyone. And then pivot it back to, so then what do you want to take action on? What do you want to do?
Right.
What do you want to focus on?
I love what you mentioned regarding the self-awareness and I guess kind of looking in and saying, where is this coming from? Where is this fear coming from? Why do I feel this way? Why do I think of myself this way? That's so, so important. I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'm a big, I believe that so much of our current life, we are filtering everything we see through memories of the past. And often that's what our perspective is, which is why we can all be in the same room and see a situation very differently, because it's all those memories, experiences from the past that we look through. So often when we can tap into, why am I feeling this? What's really going on? We can realize that what's presently in front of us is usually just a situation we're deciding how to feel about, but it's based on something often that happened decades ago that really has nothing to do with what's going on, but it's making us feel that the same thing's going to happen because our brain wants to protect us. So if something shitty happened 10 years ago, our brain's like, there's some connection here. This could be the same as that, versus the situation in front of you hasn't really happened yet. And you can do the work. You can decide to see this almost as a blank canvas and create a new memory on that, if that makes any sense. So that's the thought process behind those questions and why I ask them.
That actually reminded me of something that I read in one of my favorite books from Jen Sincero, You're a Badass. Probably one of my favorite books. She says a comment that I love, that she says, she's like, it's not your fault if you are fucked up, but it's your fault if you stay fucked up. And like how she says that, like we all have our beliefs from our family, how we were raised, how we grew up, what has been around us. And, it's our responsibility to really, take a moment and reflect, like, okay, I feel this way because, or I have, let's say, like in regards to money, like I feel this way that I'm not worth anything because that's how my family was. Like they said like money was like the devil or something. So that's why I feel this way. So she mentions like those little comments like that. So that made me remember that. That's probably one of my favorite lines. So I always try to think of that because of course I've had my own stories that I've told myself in my head of who I really was. And that was really because of all these things that I've gone through in my past, with my family or anything like that. So that book really helped me, like when I read it like 5 years ago, like made me see like, oh my God, like that was such a aha moment for me. So yeah, I got what you're saying with that. And that's really important.
That's a good quote. I like her work. She's a good one. I like her no BS approach.
I love her. And I met her in person for her book signing. She's amazing. She's the sweetest thing.
So cool.
There are a few questions that I wanted to to ask you, and I plan to ask all of the people that I do interview in the future, because these questions for me are, when I listen to podcasts, like they're my favorite to like really get to know the person that they're interviewing. Now I love organization. I have like so many planners. I have all these like organizational apps and stuff like that. So I was wondering, with all of your clients and everything, how do you stay organized? What apps do you use? Do you use like a regular planner? How do you organize, let's say, if like, do you organize your, because I know you do have your blog and everything like that, like do you organize them a month in advance? Like how do you organize yourself with like your blog and your business and stuff like that?
It's a good question. I love those questions too when people ask them. Let's see. First, I love planners. I'm obsessed with planners. When I was little and it was like a couple of weeks before school, it was always my favorite time because it meant we went school supply shopping and I always got a new planner. And yeah, the best. My mom's from the Netherlands, and we would sometimes, when I was, much younger, we would spend family over there, and they have these glorious stores with school supplies and the best planners. I mean, it was like, if you like planners, it was like heaven. And I would, those summers, I was like, all I wanted to do was go buy my planner. So as an adult, I'm still that way. I love planners. So I do like to have a physical planner. There's something, I just like how beautiful they are. I like just being able to hold it. And I like, it's a part of my morning ritual, a whole bunch of stuff I put in there, but I do like to have a physical planner that I write in. There's something very satisfying about scratching off what I have completed. And just the way I liked, maybe it's the way creative brain, you can see this. I'm organized chaos. I'm very organized, but it's definitely my desktop and my computer. I know where everything is. You would probably look at it and freak out. So my planner's the same way, because then I can draw the arrows and move things around. So I do like that tangible planner. I do also, obviously I work online. I live in 2018, so I do use apps and computers. I try to keep things as simple as possible. For me, extra steps and too many apps and programs, for me personally, it just feels like it's extra work, and I'm very cleverly distracting myself and procrastinating, because then I can just learn another tool to make me more productive when really I'm just spending an extra hour in it. So I like to keep things as simple as possible. So I honestly use my Google Suite is amazing. I use that for scheduling, and I use a Calendly app for links that I send out to new people, but it's all just integrated in my calendar there. I love the Google Docs to save things between that and my computer, and then I have a hard drive to save other stuff, but I use a lot of just simplified. So I know a lot of people love like Asana, for example. I don't personally use that. And as far as how I schedule out my work, trying to think of how to even explain my process. So overall, I'm a big goal setter, big goal planner, just what we were speaking about with the past memories. I believe in creating your future. So I'm always thinking about what is the next step of myself I want to step into, and what's the next version of myself I want to step into. And that goes with goal setting. So I always spend time looking out months ahead, a year to 6 months ahead. What do I want to create next? And then working backwards, what will that take to create that? So oftentimes in my business, I'm working in a 3-month period, knowing what I'm doing now, how that's going to tie into what I want to do in 3 months. So for example, I just started a program, but that was 3 to 4 months ago. I was putting some of the pieces just from a marketing standpoint in place so that it could all tie together. So I work backwards that way on a month-to-month or week-to-week basis, because I have one-on-one clients. My schedule can change a bit day to day based on client needs, but I do try to block off and batch my time. I find I write a blog every week. I live stream. So there's certain things that I find the way I work is I can't just sit down, and sometimes I can just sit down and write a blog in half an hour. Sometimes I can't. So I need structured time to sit down and give myself enough space to write, because if there's too much pressure, I just freak out. So I have blocks in my schedule that I treat them like client blocks, where I really don't touch them unless I absolutely have to, because someone has to reschedule. They're just blocked out times in my calendar that are unavailable, and those are my content creation time. And I have that every week. And so I batch my blog. And if I'm ahead, usually most of the time I'm ahead on my blog by a few weeks. Sometimes I'm not. That's when I might interview someone. I do about once a month, I have someone I interview. That's when if I'm working on a funnel, I'll go in and work on that. If I'm working on copy, I batch out some of my social media, not my Instagram, but some of my Facebook group posts, I batch that out. So those are just blocks of time that are dedicated to doing that I really try to leave untouched for other work. And I also schedule in, I schedule in everything because that then gives me the freedom to be spontaneous. I schedule in things like I have an afternoon break and I go for a quick walk around. I schedule that in because otherwise I won't do it because I get very laser focused.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a bit of a window into how. Feel free to ask more questions because I feel like I just prattled that off.
No, and the time blocking is something that I actually want to get into. I love calendars, but sometimes I feel like I don't follow it, and then I get like depressed because I'm like, I'm not following my calendar. But yeah, I'm the same way. I can't do the organizational digital apps. Like I love Trello, that one for like kind of project management and like laying everything out, and it just looks so cool to me. Like the way it's laid out, like that app I really do like. But yeah, mainly I'm a paper planner type of girl too. But the time blocking is something that I really want to try and do.
Time blocking. Oh, so sorry.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah. So sorry. No, go ahead.
I just want to make sure. But yeah, like that's something I definitely want to do. But that leads me into the next question that I struggle with is creating some sort of morning routine or waking up early. I'm wondering, do you have a morning routine, or like do you make sure to wake up really early to maybe work on some self-care or work on your business? I'm just wondering, how does that look like for you?
Sure.
And if you find it important as well.
Sure. I love that question. I'm obsessed with morning routines. I don't know if I still have it floating around, but for a while I had a 7-day morning ritual challenge as an opt-in as a free gift, because I'm obsessed with morning routines. I think when I first learned about morning routines, so full disclosure, this will be another little insight. So when I first learned about morning routines, it was probably in my coaching training. And I honestly thought, what a bunch of BS. Like, seriously, you want me to spend an hour of my effing morning doing I'm busy. I got stuff to do. I don't want to do all this stuff. Fast forward to now, I have a morning routine that I love, I'm obsessed with, and I really can tell the days that I don't participate in my morning routine. That being said, I have figured out how to streamline and condense my morning routine, because I think for a lot of us, we have a lot on our plate, and the idea of spending an hour on a morning routine for some people might make your brain explode. It's what happened to me when I first heard about them. So I have a morning routine that can contract or expand depending on what my day is like. So if I don't have a lot of time, if I have client calls early, or if I decided to let myself sleep a little more, or I want to go to the gym, whatever that is, I do the shortened version and I can do it in 10 minutes. If I have time, I love nothing more than luxuriating in a good half an hour, 45 minutes, and having that whole time to dig into everything. But just for anyone watching, you don't have to do all the things all the time. It doesn't mean you're failing your morning routine or you're not going to get the benefits from it. And I think it's sort of like meditation, in that even just a small bit of that morning routine each day, to think about, this is the way you start your day. This is the way you enter your day. This is the energy and the mindset that you lay at the bottom of your day, that the rest of your day gets put on top of. And what do most of us do when we wake up? Be honest here. You roll over, you grab your cell phone, and you immediately check your email, or you immediately check your Instagram or your Facebook. And our brain has different brainwave levels. What it does when we do that is we immediately get out of the brainwave we're sleeping and waking up, and jolt ourselves into a brainwave that can be a lot more hyperactive, a lot more stress induced. And email, for a lot of people, can immediately, all of a sudden you're in that, I've got to respond, or I've got to react, I should say. I just got to react to this. I got to and you're just in react mode and from there through till the time you get home and you're getting into bed, you're in react to just what life is throwing at you. And when we have a morning routine, part of my morning routine, as hard as it is do not touch that phone. Go through my morning routine, and allows me to respond. First, it allows me to, we're talking about that future creation and planning the way we want to step into our future. It allows me to plan my day and how I want to be in that day, how I want to show up. And it allows me then to respond throughout my day I've laid that foundation down and I've created my day versus having other people create my day for me. That's a lot of
Love that.
word vomit on morning routines, but that's why I love them. Does that make sense? Does that resonate?
No, definitely, definitely. I can say I'm really guilty of that. The first thing I do when I grab my phone is check the work emails and go to Instagram, because I hate to say it, but I'm obsessed with Instagram. And yeah, that's me checking it, and check Facebook and see what all these notifications are for. Yeah. And then honestly, I find myself having a tiny little headache from like, I guess like from all the like the stimulus from like everything, like looking at everything and all the photos and the emails. So funny how like I do that and I get those reactions, but yet I still do it. So it is hard, and it's something that I definitely need to practice.
Well, we're addicted to it as well, right? I mean, social media particularly, it actually taps into, I won't get all into the brain stuff, but it taps into the part of our brain that triggers addiction. The same part of our brain releases dopamine, and that's the same neurotransmitter that is like cocaine, gambling, any of those addictions. Social media triggers that. So it's a beautiful tool, but yeah, when we're doing that first thing in the morning, we're getting our fix, and we're immediately getting that hit. So, and that's one of the hardest things for me is it's my alarm. So it's right there. And I do have days where I'm not fucking human. I'm not perfect, where I'm like, I'm going to look at my Instagram, but I feel the difference. It changes how that morning, it changes that energy. I'm a more frantic person the day that I do those, that I check that first. I know you asked about my morning routine specifically, and I'm happy to share that, but I also want to be conscious of time, because I do know that I also talked a lot about the routine itself.
No, please, actually, if you don't mind, I would love to hear like what your morning routine looks like.
Yeah, no, I don't mind at all. So the first part of my morning routine, this is very important. I cannot live without this part. It's my morning coffee. And I know some people don't like coffee, and I know some people are against coffee, but I'm a coffee drinker, and that's, so I make my coffee and then I spend some time. So I like to get out that planner, and I spend some time in first planning out the day. I spend some time in affirmations and writing out. I have a couple different ways I do affirmations. So sometimes I write them out. Sometimes I say them. Sometimes it's more, I cannot remember who I learned this idea from. Otherwise I would give them credit because I love it. So sorry for whoever gave me this idea that I can't remember it, but it's not my idea. It's great. Today is going to be a great day because, and I write out the things that are going to happen in the day and how they're going to be great. And it just primes my brain for seeing, we're wired to see negative more than positive. It primes my brain to see those positive things and to believe that good things are going to happen. It also works sort of as a written visualization, and it works a bit as some planning, because I'm like, oh, these are some things I want to focus on. So that's something I do some mornings. I write out my goals for the day. So I always have 3 things. I have one thing I want to do. There's a great book about that, but I usually have 3 things. These are my must finish. These are my must, whether it's to move my business forward or whether it's on a personal level. These are my 3 musts. But then usually broken down underneath that, there's a whole bunch of, whether it's my schedule or just things I want to tap onto. I personally also always add an asterisk with my, and if there's time, this is what I'm focusing on, because as entrepreneurs, we're making our own schedule. And I'm sure you can relate to this. Sometimes we get done with stuff and we're not actually sure what we want to focus on next. And then it's amazing. I've done this before. You spend hours just figuring out what you're even, maybe I'll work on my social media. Maybe I'll write. Maybe I should work on that funnel. Like you spin out. So this way I always have, and it ties into those monthly goals, what I'm working on. It's, if you have time, this is what you're focusing on. So I map that out. And then I'm big on meditation. So I meditate. And again, I fluctuate. If I don't have a lot of time, I meditate for 5 minutes. If I have time, I meditate for longer. I meditate for 20 minutes. And then the other thing I do, and this I do with my meditation, is I spend some time in visualization. I'm huge on visualization, and I won't geek out too much on this, but when we visualize, our brain can't tell the difference between perceived events and real events. So when we're visualizing, what we were talking about earlier, we are laying down in our brain new memories. So if we're creating our life through those memories from the past, we can start to overlay those with new memories that we're creating through visualization. It's really powerful. This is not like hippy dippy stuff. This is proven science. I won't get into it too much, but it's really powerful and amazing. So I spend time in visualization as a part of my meditation practice. And that's the overall gist of my morning routine.
Oh my God, I love it. Love it. Thank you so much for sharing. That's great, because
Okay.
sometimes you just really don't know where to begin. And again, as for someone that actually wants to start a morning routine, that really does give me a good base. So thank you so much, Kim.
My pleasure. And you can do it in 10 minutes. I mean, you don't have to do all the things, and you can just outline your goals and spend 5 minutes of meditation. If we all just did that every morning, imagine how different our days would be.
Right. No, definitely set the intention for the day. Yeah, it's really important. One other question that I had, I really wanted to get your tips on, because I think you're so great at it, is I love how you do the weekly live videos. And I love how you have your Facebook and your Instagram for both the live stream. It's like, oh my God, I don't know how she does it. But I love, how video is so important right now with, connecting with your audience and hopefully future clients. I'm just wondering, and also since you have your acting experience, how do you get over those jitters, or for those that are so self-conscious on getting on video, what tips can you share for other people that are kind of scared to jump on and do those live streams?
I love this question so much. And thank you for saying that, because I'll say from where I'm sitting, you never know if people are enjoying the video or if they're even watching. So thank you for saying that. And I'll share for anyone who has those jitters. First, let's normalize that. That's normal. That is your brain doing its brain thing. You're about to get on and do something that is outside your comfort zone that you've never done before, that is scary, that's going to, we're wired again to want to be accepted and to be part of a group and to do something that people might reject you, or they might not like you. I mean, these are all the thoughts. They might not like you, or that it's live, so you can't stop. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that comes up in our head before any of the technical things. And so know that that's normal. And just because it's normal, it doesn't mean that any of those thoughts are based in reality or based in truth. But know, just having those thoughts, I'm pretty sure everyone, unless they're just on camera all the time, has those thoughts before the first time they go live. I definitely did. I told you, I didn't even post on Instagram. I didn't even post on my own Facebook account until a year into my business. So know that a lot of that those are mindset things going on. And so my first tip to anybody would be we talk about that awareness, to check in and get some awareness around what those thoughts are, and to do a little work there, because those most often are the same mindset blocks that are showing up other places in your personal life and in your business, and to get some awareness and to check in with those. So that would be my first tip, which has nothing to do with technical. Know that everyone is like that. I mean, I love lives now, but I resisted them. And I used to get so nervous and sweat before them. Still sometimes do, but I really love them. And I find a reframe that really helps me, that might help others, is to think about why you're doing this. So when we're in all the fear, when we're freaking out, we are, and this isn't to be mean, I do it too, but we're making it all about us. We're being a little, what's the word I'm looking for? Why can't I think of the word? But we're making it all about us, essentially. Instead of, most of us got into business to serve other people. And I think when we can take it off of us and remember why we're doing something, and remember, this isn't about us. Yes, you are getting on there, but this is about showing up and serving your audience. This is about sharing value. This is about connecting. And I believe this is all about building those connections. Think about what this is really about and what your intention is behind what you want to do. And most often it's not because you want to get a bunch of likes or because you just want people to look at you. Most often it's because you have a message to share. You have something. And I think when we do that, it just takes it off of us, and it takes a lot of that fear. It might still be there, but it melts away a little bit. And I find that to be a much easier place to then go live from, because then I can think about the person who's on the other end. Then I can think about the person I'm connecting with, instead of me and all my stuff. I don't know if that helps at all.
Yeah, definitely. I think you think so much of it's more about the vanity. You kind of are worried about, how do I look, or do I sound stupid, or am I making sense? And you kind of letting that go and stop worrying about all that vanity stuff, and worry about what your message is. So
yes. Yeah. And to some degree, we all have that. I mean, you saw me at the beginning of this. I was futzing with my hair because I'm a girl. I still do that. But once I'm into it, I remember, wait, I'm here. This isn't live, but we're live right now. And I'm connecting with you. And there's a reason I'm here. Then all of that can go away and be a lot more grounded in my body. So you don't beat up on yourself. It's normal. We do that. But yeah, remember remember that message you want to share. And Belinda, I don't know, did you want me? I'm happy to share practical tips or anything. Like, I don't know if there was anything specific around that, or
Yeah,
if
that'd be great.
that
Well, first of all,
covered.
like, how do you do like, I guess the dual live streaming for like the Facebook and Instagram? I'm sure a lot of people would be interested in knowing that, or
Sure.
any technical stuff that you might think it would be helpful for others to know. That'd be great.
Sure. We'll do a quick live streaming crash course. No, I'm happy to share that. I think y'all will laugh at how not technical some of this is. I'm not a tech person. I always figure, is it Marie Forleo who says everything's figure outable?
Yeah.
I always figure like there's a way to figure everything out. And even if I have to like jerry rig it, I will figure it out.
Yeah.
Or if it's like duct tape together. And of course, as we're saying this, yesterday, my internet, for whatever reason, wasn't strong enough to support both Facebook and Instagram. So I had to do them separately. But I do them together because then I can talk at both places. And I just time-wise, then I'm not, because sometimes they get pretty long. And I think yesterday I was live for almost 2 hours, and then your voice in different places, and then your voice starts to go. So I like doing them at the same time. So I use my phone for Instagram and my computer for Facebook. So I go, now I'm sure there are probably some great, I don't think though any of the apps, because there's Be Live and there's Ecamm, there's different, which I'm going to play around next week for my group. There's different programs like that you can use for going live. I don't think they support both Instagram and Facebook that I know of. There might be, but most people, when they're doing that, they have more than one device they're going live through. So I go live on one, say hi, and then I welcome and go live on the other group. So, and I'm in a New York apartment. This is my office in my New York apartment. It's not like I have a whole studio. So my space is smaller. This is where you'll laugh. I quite honestly prop my iPhone up on my laptop so that they're both just facing me. But I do have a tripod for times I'm using just one. So you could, if you had a tripod, they have an attachment for if you're going on Instagram for your iPhone, you can put that on there. So I just use 2 devices. So really, stupid simple, really simple to go on both at the same time. Practical tips. What could I share for practical tips? I think here's a few practical tips. So first, know what you're going to talk about. I think half the time we have those jitters because we don't know what we're going to talk about. And then it goes 3, 2, 1. It freaks us out. And then we're just frozen, or we get into all of our tics, which we all have. So know what you want to talk about. I don't personally love scripts. I think they make us a little wooden, but have an outline for what you want to say. There's nothing wrong with having an outline, with having notes. You're not cheating just because it's live. You can even refer to your notes. No one's going to be mad at you if you refer to your notes. And I do sometimes, if I have a bunch of points I want to hit, I will just say to whoever's watching, let me just check my notes. I want to make sure I got everything I want to cover. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
So have some sort of outline, some sort of idea of what you want to cover. I believe that if we know our opening and our close, this is something I learned from acting, when you would do what's called a cold read, which is when they have an audition and they just give you material and you don't have time to work on it. You're going to read your material, but they always taught you to learn your opening line and your closing line, so you're delivering those to camera. So know how you want to open and know how you want to close, because most of the time we have to catch people in the first few seconds. Most people aren't watching through the whole live, but they're going to watch that opening. And if you're fumbling at the beginning or not knowing what you're saying, if they're watching on a replay, you've lost their attention. So if you it doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. But if you know that opening of how you want to say hello and how you want to close, that can really bookend the live, I find well. And let me think, do I have one more practical tip? Here's one more tip that I find helps me. So just with those notes, on the Facebook Live, before you go live, you have a box where you can type in what the title is. Use that space for you, because you can see that on your screen when people are leaving you comments. I write my really brief outline on there. This is what we're going to cover today. Sometimes I'm busy and I don't write it as much, but I try to give myself at least some mental triggers within that little blurb, so that if I'm in the middle, like, what did I want to say? I can just look right in front of me and see what those triggers are. And I also keep my notes that I want to refer to on my desktop, so that I'm not looking around for them, so that they're right there. So I'm still keeping that eye line. So those are just some practical tips.
Those are great. Those are really, really great. And I didn't know, I've never done a Facebook Live. I didn't know you could, put in an outline and make some notes there. So that's really smart. I love that. Thank you so much, Kim.
Pleasure.
And then my last question, one that I find so important is, what is your number one advice to anyone? I wrote down women, but to anyone who is just starting out, who's scared or has absolutely no experience in the entrepreneurial world. What's your number one advice for them when just starting out?
I can only say one thing.
You can give a little bit more, but yeah,
One thing. I think this is someone else's quote, but this is just what's coming to me as you say that, because there's so many things. But the first thing that comes to mind is feel the fear and do it anyway. Know that fear is normal. It's a normal human emotion. You're going to feel it. If you don't feel it, you're probably a sociopath. So you're going to feel it. And that's normal. And that doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. That doesn't mean there's something wrong. That doesn't mean you're broken. That doesn't mean you can't do it. That is your brain working on overdrive because you're about to do something that is challenging and that's going to have you step outside your comfort zone and that is going to test you and that is, it's going to be a challenge. And that is your brain saying, well, let's hang out in this comfort zone. That sounds scary. I don't want you to die. Your brain thinks you're going to die. You're not going to die. No one has ever died trying to be an entrepreneur,
Right.
Ever. That I know of. So feel the fear, know that it's normal, and do it anyway would probably be, I think, the biggest hurdle for so many of us is starting. How many of us have ideas? I see this with clients that they've been thinking about for years. They have a brilliant book that has been in their head or has been written, but they haven't shared with the world, or they have a website that they've just been sitting on hitting publish for, or an idea they've just been sitting on for years. And it's not even all of the strategy. It's not even all the technical aspects. It's not the marketing. It's they just haven't started. And so really and truly my for someone starting out, it would be just to have a little faith, just to know everything's going to be okay. Like worst case, it doesn't work out and you're no worse off than you are now, but you tried and and it's not going to eat away at your brain. To just feel that fear, know it's normal, and to go for it and try anyway. And with that, I have 1,000 other thoughts and tips, but I think before we can even approach those other thoughts and tips, we have to start. And we all, I believe, are capable of so much more than we give ourselves credit for. I think we all have so much potential inside of us. And I believe we can all, obviously it does take some work and it takes some strategy, but I believe we're all capable of these things, but we have to give ourselves a fighting chance by starting. So that's clearly, I believe, a lot in that. So give yourself a chance and start and believe in yourself, because no one can want this more than you want it.
Right. And no one can really achieve that for you. If there's something you want to achieve, you have to do it. And if you want to learn from it and grow from it, you have to try and see what works and see what doesn't, and take that as a grain of salt and just keep going. Yeah, I definitely agree. Kim. Thank you so much. You shared so much motivation and goal setting and actionable tips for us to help us become a better version of ourselves. And for those that want to start a business, especially with the coaching business being so popular right now, I know so many people that want to be coaches. This has been really, really helpful. So Kim, thank you as always. You're always so helpful. I'm so appreciative.
My pleasure.
On this interview. Please let people know how they can find you.
Absolutely. First, thank you so much for having me. It's been so fun, and you're wonderful and motivating, and I love the work you are doing, and it's important. So I reflect that right back at you. And thank you for having me and asking great questions and having a platform for me to share and be able to share with your audience. So thank you. I am appreciative. And for anyone who wants to connect, I'm all about connection. I love connecting. You can find everything, my whole world is on my website, which is kimargetsinger.com. I have a Facebook group that I'm pretty active in called Business Besties and Creative Bosses. I would love to have you. It's free. And I'm probably most active on Instagram, which is just my name, @KimArgetsinger. So those are the places I hang out the most and would love to have you. And there's free gifts and all that jazz over on my website.
Awesome. And I'll also be sharing some links to some of your freebies, as well as that morning routine. I believe I have one of those as well. So I'll definitely be sharing that, as well as your little mini book that you created for like hashtags for Instagram and stuff like that. That's probably one of my favorites.
Yay, I'm glad you like it.
I'll definitely be sharing that as well. But Kim, again, thank you so much for being on with us. and being one of our first guests. So thank you, appreciate you. And I'm looking forward to see what else I see you in Facebook, because I'm in your group as well. So thank you again for everything.
Thank you. We've got some New York sirens. Oh, I really do live in New York. Thank you. And right back at you. I'm honored to be one of your first guests, and you're amazing. So thank you.
Thank you. Bye, Kim.